did you see this week's Game of Thrones? If so, you'll know what I mean when I say, holy shit. Of course, you could say that about most episodes of Game of Thrones, but I'm talking about Season 5, Episode 8, aka Hard Home. Now, before we proceed any further, let me say the night is dark and full of spoilers, so if you're not up to date, make like Gendry and row on out of here. Okay, you slowpokes gone? Good, get out of here. Let's talk about this frosty mofo right here. He looks pretty imposing, right? With his craggy blue skin and his chilling stare and his pose at the end of the episode where he basically says, "Come at me, Snow," while raising hundreds of recently slaughtered corpses from the dead. But who is he? Well, today on the Dan Cave, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the Night's King. First and foremost, the biggest thing you need to know about the Night's King is that he hasn't even appeared in the books yet. He's only been alluded to. So when he showed up on this week's episode, everybody lost their minds. We first saw the Night's King last season when he transformed an adorable baby into a white crawler, which is my name for a White Walker that hasn't learned how to white walk yet. So cute. HBO Go accidentally leaked the character's name last year, which was a major reveal. Though the character hasn't appeared in the books, he has a long history dating back to the earliest era of Westerosi history, the Age of Heroes, like some sort of frigid King Arthur. According to legend, the Night's King lived during the Age of Heroes, shortly after the wall was completed, so he's roughly 8,000 years old, but he looks pretty good, I've gotta say. Like approximately 50% of the Game of Thrones population, he was a formidable warrior. Unlike 50% of the Game of Thrones population, he was named the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. For context, Jon Snow is the 998th Lord Commander, so yeah, it's been a minute. When he ventured beyond the wall, he fell in love with a mysterious woman who had skin as white as the moon and eyes like blue stars, but her skin was as cold as ice. However, love has a cost in Westeros, and when he finally consummated their love, it cost the Lord Commander his soul. But I gotta say, nice bro, totally worth it. Taking up residence in the Night Fort. You remember, the castle where Bran and Sam crossed paths in Season 3? Anyway, I hear it's just lovely this time of year. The Night's King declared himself king, and his pale ladylove his queen, and there they ruled for 13 long, terrible years, during which he performed all manner of black magic, human sacrifice to the others, and was generally a real piece of human garbage. I guess you can say he's full of white power. Oh, wait, no, not the racist kind. WIGHT. I mean, he might be racist. We don't really know. I mean, oh God, is he racist too? Evidently, it took the combined forces of Joramun, the wildling king beyond the wall, and the Stark king in the north to bring him down and end his reign of terror. After his defeat, he basically became a Voldemort-style figure. All mentions of his name were forbidden, and he was effectively scrubbed from the record. According to the stories that Old Nan used to tell Bran Stark back at Winterfell, when he was alive, some believed that the Night's King may have been a Bolton, an Umber, a Flint, or a Woodfoot. However, Old Nan says the Night's King was actually a Stark of Winterfell, the brother of the King of the North, and that his name was, wait for it, Brandon. Dun dun dun! Yeah. Surprising music. Now, whether or not he's a part of the saddest family in Westeros aside, the Night's King's appearance on the shows revealed that he can command the armies of the undead, raise the dead to do his bidding, and if he is of the same caliber as his generals, can only be killed by dragonglass or Valyrian steel. Why Valyrian steel? Well, it's also known as dragon steel, so maybe that has something to do with it. Basically, the Night's King managed to escape after his defeat, making a fell pact with the others to command the White Walkers and the armies of the dead. Whether or not the other White Walkers can raise the dead, however, remains to be seen. Regardless, I'm sure we'll find out what's going on with the old Night's King in the Winds of Winter, which is coming out soon. Right, George R. R. Martin? Wait, you're only on what chapter? Oh, God. So tell me, when do you think we'll next see the Night's King? Do you think he's a secret Stark? Did I mispronounce Joramun? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, give me an ice-cold thumbs up. That's all for today's show. Join me next time when I talk about the groundbreaking story of two journalists uncovering a Black Ops government agency dedicated to finding aliens and crashing helicopters in All the President's Men in Black Hawk Down. Until next time, keep on digging.